We have a special guest tonight. We have Assessor Jeffrey Prang, and I was told by his assistant that this is his first neighborhood council meeting. The assessor is a graduate of Michigan State University. He was the council member for the city of West Hollywood, including 4 terms as mayor of the city of West Hollywood. And he oversees a tax assessment role of $17 billion annually in the city of Los Angeles. So it's with that, I'd like to welcome him. I think I believe you are unmuted.
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. Oh, there you are. Great. Thank you for joining us today, Assessor. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Colby, and thank you to the entire board for allowing me to come and spend a few minutes with you today. The assessor is one of the more obscure offices in the county, and we know that neighborhood councils are an important source of information for the community, and I thought it'd be helpful if I introduced my office and some of the services that we provide, tell you a little bit about what's going on in the market in your area. Might be useful information for all of you who are leaders in the community. Plus, I know that you wanted to have an exhilarating meeting, and what better way to liven things up than a talk from the county property tax assessor. So those who are unfamiliar with my office, I'm one of 3 countywide elected officials. The other 2 are the sheriff and the district attorney. And I administer a department of about 1,300 employees located in 6 offices throughout the county. I also want to clarify that I'm not the guy who collects taxes. Almost everybody thinks that I do that. That's one thing I don't do. The other guy, the guy who does collect taxes, has a very intuitive title. He's called the tax collector. As the assessor, I'm responsible for valuing all taxable property in the county, which includes land and improvements, as well as business property, which includes things such as furniture, equipment, and machinery, as well as aircraft, mobile homes, boats, and even racehorses. That being said, I oversee the largest property assessment agency in the United States. We're responsible for valuing over 2.5 million real property parcels and business assessments annually, which I'll get to in just a second. The primary job of the assessor is the production of the annual assessment roll, which is really just an essential way of saying the inventory of all taxable property. The assessment roll serves as an important planning document for local governments. They use this to prepare their budgets in anticipation of property tax revenues. I'm hearing from the city of LA quite a bit this time of year, trying to get an idea of where property tax rates volume will be. And the assessment roll also serves as an important economic indicator, giving some insight as to the health of the local real estate market. This year, the assessment roll grew for the 11th consecutive year countywide by over $63 billion, a 3.7% increase for the county over the previous year. And the total assessed value for all property in LA County for 2021 was more than $1.7 trillion. And that generated $17 billion in property tax revenue, which is allocated to cities, school districts, and is used to pay for things such as roads, hospitals, public safety, libraries, et cetera, the public services that we all rely on. To give you an idea of what's going on unfortunately, I wasn't able to break it down by a micro-targeting area. I can tell you what's going on in the city of LA. And there's a chart here that shows that, as you can see, that property value growth in the city of LA was a little bit higher than the county. Total assessed value of all property in the city of LA was about $723 billion. That's just the assessed value. The market value is probably considerably higher. So it's probably no news to you that the housing market in LA County experienced some record highs during COVID, somewhat counterintuitive given the pandemic. But housing prices increased so much that million-dollar homes become the norm in a number of areas, while other areas of the county witnessed all-time high transactions. Last month, the median sales price for a property in the area rose to $1.25 million. That's an increase of over 30% the same time last year, staggering increase. According to our data, we anticipate that prices will remain high, although we don't think that the steep increases will continue this next year. You can see some of the neighboring cities, neighboring communities to Toluca Lake, Studio City, north of the river, Studio City, south of the river, that the median sales price of a home is well over $1 million. That one statistic there that shows that Studio City south of LA River had a negative growth is probably not something to suggest that property values are going down there. That probably just has to do with the number and nature of transactions that took place. One other thing I wanted to talk about very, very briefly, it deals with Proposition 19. This was a measure that was passed by the voters back in 2020. If you're not familiar with Prop 19, it has two major components. First, it allowed homeowners who are over 55 years of age or disabled or victims of a natural disaster to transfer their property tax base with them when they sell their home and buy a new one. So if you're 55 and you bought your home in 1990 for $100,000, you could take that $100,000 tax base with you if you buy a new home anywhere in the state. There's another part of Prop 19 that's causing a lot of consternation. This part was not talked about very much during the campaign, and this deals with intergenerational transfers, or parent to child or grandparent to grandchild inheritance issues. Prop 19 greatly rolled back tax benefits for family inheritance, and you could still inherit the property, but the preferential tax base that used to be able to benefit from has been greatly reduced. There's a measure being circulated to restore those family benefits, and you may hear the slogan over the course of the next month to roll back the death tax. Another issue before I conclude that I wanted to discuss, I always like to remind local leaders about the homeowners exemption. One of the things my department does is we manage a number of the property tax savings programs, and among those programs for seniors, veterans, the disabled, nonprofits, is the homeowners exemption. And what this does is it allows me to reduce your property assessment annually by $7,000, which will save you about $70 on your annual property tax. If you own your home and occupy it as your principal residence as of January 1st, you are automatically eligible for this exemption. The deadline to receive the full exemption annually is today, actually. It's February 15th. You'll get a partial exemption if you apply after this. It's a one-time only application. Savings renew automatically every year. I bring this up because we estimate that about a third of all homeowners in LA County fail to apply for this exemption, primarily because they simply don't know about it. So I'm glad to have the opportunity to speak with you today and share this information. So in conclusion, I just want to let you know that we've created an array of resources that are available for property owners. Anything that you might need, any questions you might have about your property or other properties in the community, it's available on our website, which is a very robust, informative website. We also have a lot of details available on our annual report, which is also available on our website. And I did want to encourage you all to subscribe to our very informative monthly newsletter, which is a must read for anybody who owns property in LA County. And I promise you, we won't spam you with all types of political junk, but just good information about owning property and saving money on taxes in LA County. This is my email and phone number and contact information. And if anybody ever has any questions, you can reach me here.
Thank you, Assessor Frank. I'm so impressed that you came on and you're talking to us directly. I mean, you're going to hit all 98 other neighborhood councils. That's very, very impressive. Yeah, Prop 19 kind of threw me for a loop also when I read the details after it was voted in. It was, I felt a little, well, I won't get into it, but I see Tess Taylor has a hand up. You were able to take questions, aren't you, Assessor?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Very quickly, I've noticed your emails in my inbox, Mr. Prang, so you're very proactive, and I appreciate that. Thank you for this. Number one, I would like to be able to get a copy of your PowerPoint presentation. If I email you, may I get that from you?
Absolutely.
And number two, thank you. Does your office do any projections with respect to revenues anticipated from the passage of bills like SB 9 and SB 10 and the anticipated increased revenue from property taxes? Do you do any projections on that?
We don't, because my office technically is not a revenue office. Our job, okay, we're real estate appraisers, so we will ascertain what we think the increase in assessed value will be. The projections probably property taxes is probably a combination of the auditor controller, the treasurer tax collector, and the chief executive office. Hard to tell what will happen with SB 9. I suspect that if I apologize for my dog is barking in the background, but I suspect if people are to split their lots as they're allowed to do under SB 9, if they add additional units, there may be additional tax revenues that will be generated by that. Hey. But it's impossible to tell at this point what the potential revenue will be. The way that we do projections is by looking backward. We look at what type of transactions took place and we try to extrapolate what the trend will be going forward. But since there is no information to look back on at this point, we don't really have a benchmark to guess. We'll need another year or two before we can begin to.
That's good. Bonus question: what kind of dog do you have?
A Pomeranian.
Excellent. All right, thank you.
I guess I'll follow up with Tess. Is with the lot splitting with SB 9 and presumably SB 10, which would subdivide them even more. Do you see there being reassessments for the lots that you know what I mean? Would the other lots be reassessed at the current value?
So the basic principle is that if the same owner is splitting the lot, the current assessment will be divided between the two lots. So it'll be more or less the same assessment for the total parcel. But there will be changes because if you're going to put additional units, adding bathrooms, baths, rooms that weren't there, any new construction will result in a reassessment of that new construction. The other thing to keep in mind is all the direct assessments, things like sewer, metro charges, school charges, those will now be applied to each of the separate parcels if you do a lot split. So there could be, or there may be a revenue opportunity. There could also be additional tax burdens.
Okay, that makes sense. Any other questions for Assessor Prang from either our board or our stakeholders?
It looks like Paige is asking.
Yeah, I have a quick question. I went on the website and looked at the forms. It looks like it's form BOE 226. Is that the correct form to fill out if people want to file for the property tax exemption that you mentioned? So
the homeowners exemption on our website. There is a tax savings tab, and it should just say homeowners exemption on it. Okay. Robert, is there a BOE number attached to that?
There is. I'm not sure of the exact number, but it should at the top of the form say claim for homeowners exemption.
The Board of Equalization has numbers, but we use our own designation on that. We just call it the homeowners exemption. It's in big headlines on it.
Got it.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I think that answers all our questions for now, but I'm glad we have a direct line to your email, and I'm sure we'll be in touch.
So thank you so much for inviting me to be here tonight.
Thank you for your time.
And thank you, El Cid. I've been talking to El Cid all week about this, and I'm very excited about having you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Good evening. Thank you.